Welcome to Red, White, and Blue. From the right, I'm Gary Polland.
And from the left, I'm David Jones.
Tonight, David, we start our 9th year. Congratulations.
Yeah,
I put up with you for a long time.
It's been hard, I know.
We welcome first Peter Durkin. Peter is CEO and president of Planned Parenthood Gulf Coast. And our other guest, Elizabeth Graham, and Elizabeth is director of Texas Right to Life. Welcome to both of you.
Nice to be here. Thank you, Gary.
And what coast are you on?
The Middle Coast.
Middle Coast. All right. Well, let's start off by you folks telling us, first, you, Mr. Durkin, and you, Elizabeth Graham, what is Planned Parenthood? What does it do? What are your members, and how are you funded?
That's a great question. We've been around as a national organization for almost over 90 years, and here in Houston and Southeast Texas for 75 years. This is our 75th anniversary. And we provide basic family planning, reproductive health care to, last year, 123,000 clients, both through our 12 health centers here in Houston and Southeast Texas and Louisiana. We recently merged with Louisiana and became Planned Parenthood Gulf Coast. And the other thing we do provide is sexuality education, as well as advocacy to ensure that we have good public policies to provide health care for our clients and good sex ed.
And what about, where do you get your money?
Our money comes from a variety of sources. We have contracts for service with the state where we provide well woman exams. That constitutes a little over 40% of our funding. We also do fundraising through a wide range of events and other things, foundation support, and also clients. You know, in our service area, 30% of the client population does not have health insurance. So a lot of our clients, we're very affordable to them, very accessible. We provide great services, and so they pay for it out of pocket. I always say we provide client services from the Medicaid card to the MasterCard, and we continue to grow, and our biggest problem is too much opportunity.
And you're well funded, I'm sure, Ms. Graham, and can tell us the same things about your organization.
Well, Texas Right to Life does not receive government funding, but we are the state affiliate of National Right to Life. We're the pro-life headquarters for the state. We have about 250,000 members across the state. We are privately funded completely. We have issue advocacy. We do a lot of education on a wide range of issues, including the beginning of life, options for women facing unplanned pregnancies. We have a large education department on stem cell research and end-of-life issues. We have an outreach to high school and college students, and then we do have a political and a legislative arm also.
And I think Planned Parenthood
exactly what we wanted to hear.
Well, but they both, I think Planned Parenthood has a political arm too, not part of the nonprofit, but a separate
C4 Action Fund, which does engage in electoral activities.
But it didn't help you in the Texas legislature, did it?
No, but it's curious, in that November 2nd election, I never heard anything about ultrasound bill. I never heard as a campaign issue, ultrasound bill or defunding Planned Parenthood. And under the guise of this economic crisis, I think this defunding Planned Parenthood slipped in as both in Texas and other states.
But you weren't defunded by the Texas legislature, were you?
Yes, in this current
I thought there were rules that were being considered.
No, I think
that was just the Medicaid
Title
part.
20, which provides health services for teens and undocumented women, that money is being shifted away from Planned Parenthood in Texas. And also, I think right now, what we were talking earlier, is a Medicaid waiver, which provides family planning, reproductive health care for a large number of women. Planned Parenthood was put on the defunding list because I think this is part of the conservative agenda to make abortion unsafe and illegal, and also to make contraception less available.
What happened in the legislative session that you approve of, Ms. Graham?
$64 million was cut from the family planning revenue streams for the state because there are other more worthy programs that need the money, such as autism, children with special health care needs, mental health, mental retardation services. And so there's a $64 million amount of money that is not required by federal law, and the legislature saw fit to take that money out of family planning and direct it to other programs. Family planning in Texas will still receive $99 million. And so Planned Parenthood can apply for those grants and probably takes all the money so that clean healthcare providers are not eligible to do family planning services. And Planned Parenthood was not defunded. It's actually against the law to name an organization in statute. You can name an organization for an earmark, but you can't name an organization to exclude in the law. So the legislature was very careful.
The net effect, Elizabeth, let's be honest about this. The net effect is the goal is to ultimately defund Planned Parenthood, because we advocate and offer abortion care.
In a year of budget crisis and enormous deficit, we do not think that the $363 million that goes to America's largest abortion provider is a wise use of taxpayer resources.
Do you have anything to do with this?
Wait.
No, neither one of you have mentioned the sonogram.
No, I want a conservative, from a conservative point of view, family planning, say, as a conservative, this is a great investment in the public health of people of Texas. Is family planning is a great investment. For every $1 you spend on family planning, you save $4 in terms of future state expenses were a woman to have a Medicaid birth. So I think this notion that I think Planned Parenthood is a key part of the public health fabric of this community, and we provided the most well woman exams of any provider in the state, and I think we're continuing to grow.
I guess to be fair, is there a difference then? And it looks like Planned Parenthood's got lots of hats. That's based on what you had said. It sounds to me so.
And $1 billion in assets. $1 billion.
Is that nationally?
It's on your annual report.
Our annual report?
Planned Parenthood Federation of America, of which
national.
you are an affiliate.
I'd be thunderstruck if it was $1 billion.
Okay, but and that's interesting. But you talked about family planning, and that we're not talking about. I guess in that rubric, some people would say, well, that does include abortions, but maybe you'd say, oh no, that's actually trying to get people to have an understanding to plan their families before they decide they're going to do it.
Let me be clear. If Planned Parenthood, whether Peter's organization or nationally, would get out of the abortion business, would completely stop providing abortions, whether through the pills or surgicals, there would not be as controversial. And Texas Right to Life, and I'm sure many of the other pro-life organizations would have no problem with Planned Parenthood. But Planned Parenthood is America's largest abortion provider. Planned Parenthood will say they do 3%. That 3% of their services are abortion. However, 97% of their services to pregnant women are abortion.
Okay,
it's a very controversial organization that does not deserve our money.
Why abortion care out of the full continuum of reproductive health care? I believe abortion is an important. No, let's be serious about this. I say be serious about this because abortion has been around for thousands of years. Roe versus Wade did not invent abortion. And when you talk about public health achievements, Roe versus Wade has been a great public health achievement. Women do not lose their lives to unsafe, illegal abortions. And I would ask Elizabeth, is it your end game in terms of overturning Roe versus Wade? Is that what you think is the end game? And two is, would you criminalize women and doctors? I can never get that answer.
I would ask you, is
Planned
Parenthood...
I would ask you.
I have the same questions for you, Peter.
Oh, okay. Well,
great.
Well, here's what we don't need is a debate where you're not going to answer each other's questions. One question you can answer is what happened to the ultrasound.
Oh, no, what about the bill? Why was it important to Texas Right to Life? Why did the
sonogram
Planned Parenthood have problems with it, if they did?
No, we did.
Yes, Planned
So
Parenthood
why?
did.
So why did you like it? Why was it a good idea?
Well, the sonogram actually measures what's happening in the womb, shows a woman what's happening in the womb before she makes a life-altering decision. Most physicians will talk to you before you undergo any surgery and say, here's what your broken arm looks like, here's what it will look like if you continue with your arm broken, here's what we could do for if we fix your arm. Whether it's a broken arm or something, your pancreas, or the like. Doctors give you full informed consent on any medical procedure. The sonogram bill shows a woman what's happening in the womb. She has the opportunity to hear the heartbeat, to see the arms and legs, and then to decide whether or not she will continue her pregnancy. And so the sonogram actually is a vital piece of medical information that helps a woman make fully informed consent.
Would you want somebody doing that to you?
I like all the medical information.
Would you want somebody forcing you to listen to, or look at an image, especially in the first 8 weeks, it might be just massive fluid, So you want somebody to force you to do that?
I am routinely on airplanes where the TSA person is forced to give an announcement and show me a video, and I can choose whether or not I watch or listen. However, if the plane goes down, the safety information has been provided to me, and I can act on that.
I don't see the analogy. I think this is the ultrasound bill. Look, the extremists who want to make abortion unsafe and illegal they so far have not been able to make it illegal, so they're trying to put every barrier in the way they can to make it less accessible for women.
They're free to do that.
Well, they're free to do that if they have the votes, and that's, I think, why we're going to have a class action lawsuit on this, because I don't think that
Well, why were you against it? What's wrong with
well, I think the
mothers
standard.
seeing
First
what's
off,
there
it is
before you
the
decide to have
standard.
an abortion?
Ultrasound is the standard of care in terms of people seeking abortion. But we think women, her doctor, and her God, she's capable of making those decisions, and those are complex moral decisions that don't need the state of Texas involved. And I also think in terms of the doctor who's providing the care, he or she has to provide this counseling 24 hours in advance, and the goal is to make it more and more difficult. I think have no illusions about that. This isn't about improved public health. This is about making it more and more difficult for women to access these services.
Why do you keep losing these battles in the legislatures?
Well, I think the tsunami that washed over us on November 2nd, I mean, that was under the guise of the economic crisis. A lot of people were swept into office, and I think Elizabeth and her group were successful in advancing this agenda. I do think the people who are pro-choice have put up an extremely good fight in trying to resist this. Governor Perry said that this was an emergency item, this ultrasound bill. And we're dealing with cutting public education. We're dealing with water issues. We're dealing with all these other things. And ultrasound was the emergency issue we had to deal with.
With over 80,000 abortions a year.
Nonsense.
With over 80,000 abortions a year in Texas, I think the legislators responded to the fact that perhaps women, when they have full medical information, might make a different choice for their pregnancy. I find it interesting that Peter called the sonogram law a barrier, yet it's the same standard of care that Planned Parenthood provides. So I don't understand the resistance.
I think
even the doctors who oppose the sonogram law in the legislative hearing said we do this anyway. So we couldn't ever really wrap our arms around why there's resistance to giving a woman this information.
There's not the issue is it's not just the information. It is all these steps you have to go through, and the goal is to make it truly is to make it less accessible. I think
is there any other surgery where you can walk in?
Do you have any other surgery where they have the state of Texas intruding into this? Women can make these decisions without the state of Texas intruding.
Right, let's talk about something that I find of interest, because I work in the family courts, and I see, and I've personally been involved in lawsuits where foster parents who want to adopt the child that they fostered, fighting the parents to get the kids away, spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to get children. And I'm kind of wondering here, maybe we got it all wrong. Maybe we should be encouraging more women to have healthy children, and then if they don't want them, put them up for adoption, because I think people are standing in line for healthy children.
I think
so. Why don't we do that?
I think if there's opportunities to make adoption more accessible and easier and less expensive, I'm all for it.
Population studies,
but Planned Parenthood does very few adoption referrals, and compared to their abortion business, they're in single-digit
By the time our
adoption.
clients get to us, they have made up their mind. They're capable of making that decision in consultation with their family and their doctor and their religious beliefs.
What is the age of fetal development after which you will turn people down?
Well, currently we're providing services up to 16 weeks of pregnancy, and we are at one facility will be licensed as an ambulatory surgery center, which will allow us to provide procedures up to 20 weeks. And I think the key thing is under Roe versus Wade, you can provide procedures up to 24 and a half weeks.
Since it's the law,
one point. The vast majority of abortions that are performed in this country are under 12 weeks, 90%. The numbers that are in later procedures, and those are the heartbreaking ones of planned, intended pregnancies, that a lot of them have gone horribly wrong, I think constitute a small percentage. But I do think in terms of the vast majority of women who access this service already have at least one child. They're under a lot of financial pressure. And also I think that 1 in 3 women in this country will have at one time in their lives have had an abortion in their childbearing years. So when we talk about making it less accessible, I just think it's cruel and it's bad public health policy.
Why don't you counsel more women about the option of adopting and going full term?
When you come in and you're seeking an abortion services, you have to have all your options explained to you, the risks and benefits of same, and people can make those decisions. And I guarantee you that it occurs.
Your group give counseling to women about the adoption option?
Absolutely.
What about the abortion option?
You can't do that.
Women, no, we could, but we choose not to because we don't believe abortion is a valid option to a pregnancy, planned or otherwise.
Would you overturn Roe versus Wade?
I would, Peter.
would you make it unsafe and illegal? And what are women going to do?
I don't find abortion to be safe ever.
What's the end game? Let me ask you this. What's the end game?
Public health issue.
What's the end game
Abortion
of?
is very dangerous.
Let's assume that Peter
Abortion is not dangerous.
is right, and that there is some group of people that wish that were to happen, and
what were to happen.
that abortion was illegal. And,
well, no, Roe v. Wade was repealed.
Yes, exactly.
Which would mean it would go back to the states.
Should it be that?
Yes,
Gary,
it would.
let's not be naive.
Do we have reason? Do we have reason to worry, given that we see in other countries where there are huge families, 5, 6, and 7 children, they are poor. They're poor. Their countries are poor. Their families are poor. Their literacy rates are lower. I mean, isn't that where the United States ends up?
When has abortion ever become a solution for poverty and illiteracy?
When people can't control their planning for their families.
Wait a minute. Let's get to the real solution. The real solution is sexuality
Did I miss
education.
that question?
The real solution is sexuality education. If you look at the countries that have low teen pregnancy rates, low abortion rates, low everything, even states in the United States, is comprehensive sexuality education and access to health care services. And I cannot understand why the Right to Life groups are so opposed to expanding access to health care and are so opposed to comprehensive sex education. Why is that? If you want to have fewer abortions, fewer unintended pregnancies in this country and in the world, you would advance a shared agenda that Elizabeth and I could share and say, this is what we want to do to reduce unintended pregnancy in this country. It is logical, it is common sense. And there's not just a war on women right now, there is a war on common sense.
Well, it's a subset. Before I ask Elizabeth, do you find clients coming in to see you that don't understand how they got pregnant?
Exactly. I mean, it's astonishing. And I think that's what we need to have comprehensive, age-appropriate, medically accurate sex education. And these young people are ravenous for accurate information.
You're filibustering here. Let's let Elizabeth address.
Is that the answer?
Because the
sex education, age-appropriate sex education will reduce abortion.
And access to health care.
If Planned Parenthood would completely stop its abortion services, I'm sure that they would be able to offer other services that are worthy of American women. There are some forms of birth control, contraception, that do cause abortion. They can cause chemical abortion, and we vehemently oppose those because they are considered abortion too.
So would you make contraception less accessible?
If there is education available to people who are making those choices that involve contraception that does not cause an abortion or a chemical abortion, Texas Right to Life and most pro-life organizations do not oppose those forms of contraception which do not cause abortion.
But you heard he talked about, he said there are instances where they have clients come in who don't understand how they got pregnant. I mean, for us, we're sitting there thinking, how could that be? But you say it happens, I take
we've
it your word.
We've had lives of privilege. I guarantee you there's a lot of other people who have not
So what do we do about that, Elizabeth? These kids who come in, young people come in, they're just ignorant. They don't know anything. But they got pregnant.
Or they were in their 40s and thought, I can't get pregnant. And now all of a sudden they find themselves pregnant. Or in a second marriage. And
abortion is not the answer to that. Peter's talking about education. We could educate them on how to care for their children. We could educate them on...
How about how you get pregnant?
That would be fine, too.
The National Institute of Science and its Institute of Medicine are recommending that under the Affordable Care Act that will be in law maybe a year or two from now, unless something happens in Gary's electoral fantasies.
I'm hoping.
Their recommendation is that all insurers provide a vast number of services to women, sort of wellness services, free of charge, that are presently costing families $1,500, $2,000 deductibles. Will you try to keep that from being implemented?
There are some forms of contraception that cause abortion. There is a conscious problem.
I'm sorry, Elizabeth, which ones?
Let me finish.
Okay.
There's a conscious problem requiring companies and health insurance providers and religious organizations to provide a pill, a medicine, to which they are morally opposed. So that's one issue. Aside from the problems with that being on the taxpayers, there is a moral objection to requiring that companies or us as taxpayers pay for contraception. Secondly, there are forms of contraception that can cause chemical abortions, and the taxpayers should not be funding that under the Affordable Care Act.
Well, of course, I only said insurers covering. I didn't say anything about... Because Medicaid cannot fund abortions. I mean, it is against the law. Correct?
Correct. There's no government funding for abortion care. And I want to take this to a higher level. This is about public health policy. And if you were talking about investing your dollars, as a conservative investing your dollars, you would say preventive health care, particularly family planning, birth control, well woman exams, pap smears. You would say that's a great investment. You would say our investor-driven healthcare system is doing a very poor job in terms of prevention. And the services that Planned Parenthood provide pays great dividends. And I would dispute this notion that, particularly on the birth control pill, which is now celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, it has been a great public health achievement. Even if you're not sexually active, 2 years on the birth control pill pays dividends in terms of your long-term prevention of other diseases. So I think that's mythology.
Well, I guess, Peter, some of the criticism of your organization is, and I think the money discussions is money's fungible. So you're a nonprofit, you get people donate money to support you, and there's probably a lot of support for well women programs. The things you're talking about have nothing to do with abortion, but all the donated money goes in, and the government money comes in to fund you, and then you move the donated money over to pay for the abortions. I think that's what the kind of the theory is.
We have a separate corporation for our surgical service, which includes abortion and vasectomy, which I would like to see that service grow.
Especially for David, I think.
He has Republican accountants, so
and I think the government paying the light bill, you have money for abortion.
No, it's quite the opposite. That the surgical services pays a disproportionate amount back to the.
Has that always been the case? Has Planned Parenthood always had that as part of their agenda?
We've had to deal with this for 2 years, and we have these expensive audits where they come in and photograph the door to make sure there's separate entrances and all the rest of that, which is costing us $400,000 to $600,000 a year to evaluate that.
Your position,
and our point is that it doesn't improve public health policy. It just is one more form of barrier and harassment to providers to make this service more difficult to provide.
I'm just trying to find out where the middle ground is, because I don't think there is any, because it's your belief, isn't it, that life begins at insemination and there is no going back after that. Fertilization.
Yes.
So even though the law of the land says otherwise.
The law
in terms
actually
of
does not say that. Let's be clear.
Wade was brilliant in this area.
But you are saying that the law of the land is something that you think should be disregarded because of your religious beliefs?
There's a twofold answer to that. I never think the law of the land should be disregarded. Most pro-lifers are law-abiding citizens, and we do respect the legislative process as much as we may disagree with what laws are or are not passed. Secondly, I very much would like to see all human life, beginning at fertilization until natural death, restored. The protection and the sanctity of innocent human life restored and protected through public policy, through education, through outreach, through a wide variety of not only grassroots activism, but public policy as well.
But I just want to go back to that. First off, we're spending a disproportionate amount of money on security because our facilities have been the victim of reckless people. I mean, we've experienced that. So I would say, in terms of that agenda, I wish you would get that message out there, because there's some people who
well, those are criminals. They should be prosecuted.
They should be, but there's this reckless language that is used.
Texas Right to Life is saddened by the violence both inside and outside of abortion clinics.
Well, the other piece of that is I think that where we could find common ground, and I've had meetings on this. The common ground is, if you have good sex education and good access to health care, you can reduce unintended pregnancy. That is simple common sense that every viewer sitting out there in their home right now says, I get that. Why can't we advance this shared agenda both in the legislature and in Congress and with these different groups? Because our clients get it. They don't want to experience an unintended pregnancy, and young people want to be able to manage their health care. So I just understand why we can't
you think
find
the wind
shared
is at your back
agenda.
politically, Elizabeth, do you not? That you can continue with this agenda because of public opinion being on your side. Is that correct?
I think recent attention to some of the sex traffickers and some of the harboring of minors who have turned up pregnant, some of those recent stories on Planned Parenthood is really drawing the attention of Americans, and they want to see that their tax dollars no longer fund the abortion industry. Planned Parenthood Federation of America
The tax dollars don't fund abortion.
Industry. Planned Parenthood Federation.
They pay your rent, maybe, is what you say.
Planned
They don't. We
Parenthood
have
Federation
separate
of America
corporations. We are completely separate
recently
corporations.
issued a policy this year saying that anyone affiliated with the Planned Parenthood name does have to start doing abortion, and what they meant by that was not only surgical, but particularly the medical abortion, which is RU 486. They are an abortion-minded agency, and so we're hearing all this talk about preventative and health care. Make no mistake, Planned Parenthood is in
I would
the
hasten to
abortion
add,
business.
we provide services instead of trying to fight and oppose services. We had 123 client visits last year, and I think I would challenge the Right to Life group to start providing services.
And that'll be done off the air. Thanks, Elizabeth Graham, for being here, and you, Peter Durkin, as well.
you.
Thank you.
We invite you to visit our home online at HoustonPBS.org. Click on the local program bar, red, white, and blue. Read about our guests. Watch the shows, a follow-up discussion. And until next time, get informed and get active.